Everyone's going to know.
This is my motto. Whenever somebody asks you if you can do something, you just have confidence. You say, yeah.
That's one hell of an outlook. That is a key to success. Sometimes it can bite you in the ass, as Luke found out.
But yeah, sometimes you just have to say yes to everything,
Everything.
I don't know if that's my motto. I'm not against saying yes to things, but not to everything. I think there's limits.
Just tell us when it's going.
Oh, yeah.
What? I'd like to welcome you to the inaugural test podcast of Shield K9. In fact, I don't even know if this is going to ever go out. We're just testing the podcast setup now, and we're going to see kind of what happens.
I think you should only put out bloopers.
It might be a little bit more entertaining if we do it like that.
It'd be hilarious.
So, I guess, as you would normally do with podcasts, you would introduce each individual. So I'll start with me, because I'm, of course,
The most important.
I was going to say the most handsome.
Oh, well done.
Are you kidding me? Look at this. This is a dime piece.
A dime piece of something. So, I'm Haas. I am the, I don't know. What would you?
What's your title? You get to pick a title. That's the best part about.
I am
Owner.
the king of Shield K9. All right. You know what? That's what I'm going to be from now on. I'm the king of Shield K9. You can refer to me.
The King Knight.
You can refer to me as Your Majesty.
Your Majesty.
All right, Lucas.
I'm Lucas. I was going to say I'm the Queen of Shield. Like, no, that doesn't go well. I'm going to go with the title of Jester of Shield K9. Come and hang out here every now and then, and sometimes I beat up Haas. That's
There you go.
essentially the
Lucas is actually my boxing coach.
I don't want to take credit for that, but thank you.
So all the skill or lack thereof that you see is a direct reflection of Lucas. Lucas, you actually run a gym. Why don't you tell people?
Yeah, so I own a gym in Oakville called Aegis MMA. We've been open now almost 3 years in October. We started just after COVID, and we deal with like recreational students, police, LEO, and then we have a bunch of guys that fight professionally. Just had a guy get a contract in the UFC Tuesday night.
On the Contender
In
Series.
the Contender Series, so earned his contract, which was pretty cool. Looked really good. And yeah, that's essentially what I actually do for a living.
Yep. So Lucas is a legit dude.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. And Steven,
Oh, you got to pick a title now. This is what I'm so excited for.
I feel like you're the queen of Shield K9.
I am. I don't know. I'm like,
Well, I say you're the general manager because for all intents and purposes, you are.
yeah.
If we're like a sports team, I'm the owner, and I'm like the crazy owner that sometimes does like not good things to help the team, and then sometimes does amazing things.
It would be true. It's very accurate. Yeah.
And then Steve is like the general manager. He like does all the day-to-day stuff. He manages everything. He knows where everything is. He knows the schedules. He's like actually in charge of Shield K9.
On a day-to-day basis, yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of the dynamic.
Queen is probably a good title, right?
Sure, Queen.
I feel like it. In some kingdoms, he would be the queen. So that's the group. And like I said, we literally just sat down. We're testing all the equipment. There's no agenda. There's no topic of discussion.
I'm going to have a topic right now.
Perfect. I knew you would.
Of course I would. I like to talk and hear myself. So what made you want to do a podcast?
I think what made me want to do a podcast is not because everybody else is doing them, because as you guys know, here at Shield K9, I really don't do what everybody else is doing. I like to do my own thing. But we always have these awesome conversations. It could be just us three sitting down. It could be me and somebody else sitting down, and we'll have fantastic conversations. And I'm like, man, if this was on a podcast, it would be a fire podcast. So I said, it's time to stop allowing the people to miss out. Like, we have to stop letting people miss out on this stuff. You know, they need to get access to the real deal dog talk, life talk, because it goes beyond dogs. We do talk about other things beyond dogs. We talk about life, you know.
We do talk about life a lot, but they're very similar.
Yeah.
There's a lot of conjunction between the two, right? Like,
The one thing that held me up is I'm a very, what's the word?
I can think of a few words for
I'm like a direct individual. And the reality is, obviously, we have a lot of clients that are just here for the dogs. And I realized that doing a podcast in which listen, when you listen to someone talk for a couple hours, you're gonna know who that person is. And you know, I don't want to scare people off because we get a lot of pet clients. They're just bringing their golden doodle here. They want a nice recall. They want loose leash walking, and you know, we love those types of clients. But you know, there's a lot of has, and for some people, it might be a little scary. So, but I realized, you know what, those types of people aren't going to even watch the podcast in the first place. So, whatever, man.
Well, you can talk about
Where I want.
Yeah.
You guys are going to find out all about me if you didn't already. Listen, if you watch all my stuff, you'll catch a vibe. You kind of know like where I stand on a lot of stuff and how I operate. But the podcast, I guess, will be very revealing of that.
Yeah, I think you're more than what you just put out on YouTube as a person who doesn't work here, and I can say whatever I like.
Oh, absolutely.
You are not the exact same on YouTube as you are in real life.
What would I be like? What's the difference between me in real life versus YouTube?
I think YouTube. Ooh, you want my real answer?
Yeah, man. Give it.
Okay, it's gonna come off. Gotta watch the words I say because obviously it's a podcast. But I would say you are much softer and sweeter and caring in real life. No, I really truly think you are.
All right, cut.
Yeah, I know.
All that shit out. I don't want any of that stuff in here. Dan, remove it all.
Yeah, he doesn't like that he has a sensitive side. It's okay, buddy.
It's because I'm polite and cordial to the people in my direct presence.
But I think the people that you actually like, you're very, very good to.
As opposed to who?
What do you mean?
Who am I not good to?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So I'm saying I think you come off way more egotistical in your video.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
As opposed to like when you actually get to meet you, you're like, oh, he's actually not so bad.
Oh,
He's not terrible.
well, you know what? I think people conflate egotism with speaking with conviction. When I say something I believe, I say it like I fucking believe it.
You're direct.
That's it. And hey, prove me wrong.
I think you're very correct, but I think what happens is people will take that and they will associate whatever emotion they want or whatever view they want, which would be in this case egotistical, and that's how it would come off to others. So no matter what your feeling of it is and what you are, it doesn't matter. No one cares. No one cares what Has thinks, right? They care what, they view it as. So if we're being real, that's what people would view it as. So I agree that it's direct, and I don't think there's any...
So you thought I was going to be egotistical when we encountered...
So do you want a funny story?
Okay.
Okay, we'll go funny story. This is hilarious. So I obviously started training with you, a year ago? Just over?
Well, whenever I started training with you, you started training with me.
Yeah, so...
Actually, no. You trained with me first.
Yes, so I was training you.
Yeah.
So when my first experience into bitey dogs, I got a dog off of Kijiji. So you are significantly closer than the other place, like Grassroots, where I go and hang out with Mike.
Yeah.
I messaged here first, and I got no response for probably 6 weeks. I called, left messages, and I even text. Yeah. So I was like, well,
You never told me this.
yeah, this guy's a douchebag. So I was like, doesn't have time for me. So I was like, okay, cool. So
When was this? What year?
how old's Sushi? Sushi will be 3 in October. Got her in January.
Was I still on the phone at that time?
I don't know.
Yeah, it would have been you. Because I got a text back at one point being like, this was like weeks after I had sent it,
Yeah.
being like, oh yeah, we do that. And that was it. And I was like, well, okay, well, I'm
All right. Yeah.
That sounds like a you response for sure. That's not a me response.
This would have been...
And that's how he ended up with Grassroots Canine. Here's the thing. I'll tell you why I didn't respond. If you told me all that stuff, like Bite Work, Kijiji,
I didn't because I figured I've played the business game once or twice. I would have just said, hey, looking for protection work with my dog. Is that what you guys do?
okay, so we probably didn't respond. I think that might have been when COVID was first kicking
The
off.
first of the first.
Yeah. So we were overwhelmed with pet dogs. And here's the thing. I love protection training, but I don't actually love it as a business.
It's terrible.
It's a terrible business.
I agree.
The amount of times you have to come, I don't feel right charging someone and it's not that I don't, but I just don't feel right charging someone our going hourly rate for protection training. You're going to have to do so much sessions to get anywhere with your dog.
So now that I've been involved for a while, because, when you didn't want to have me, Mike and, Grassroots and Ali took me in graciously and offered me their home and a place to
They are
stay.
nicer people than me, just an FYI. Mike is. I don't know about Ali, but Mike is.
I would say they're both very, very sweet and kind. And
Mike is.
well, they've both been lovely to me.
Mike is.
So I went up there, but I got to see this, and now I've been here long enough as well because I go between the two. But I get to see that the protection dog side and the protection work is very similar to what would be fighters in my industry, where it's like it's the most fun work you do, in my opinion, like the higher level stuff. And I know it's not a popular thing to say, but it doesn't at the end of the day necessarily pay all the bills as quickly as you want it to.
Doesn't even come close.
Yeah, that's, instead of me beating around the bush,
Yeah.
it doesn't, but it's fun stuff to do. So I would understand why if somebody came and was like, hey, I want to be a pro fighter, let me do privates. It's like, well, you're not training 2 days a week for the amount I charge to ever be a pro fighter. It's not going to happen. And protection dogs I see would be the exact same thing.
Exactly. Like usually, like I have clients, and most of the clients that we have for this are either old clients, so like they've been coming to us forever and they have so much like brand loyalty that we just have to like support them and help them with their dogs and their goals. But we're not charging them what we would normally charge per hour because you got to keep coming. Like it's such a work intensive thing to build a protection dog, the amount of sessions required. And then not only that, the quality of the dog is so important.
I was literally just going to like interrupt you and be like, the genetics, now that I understand what's going on, the genetics of the dog means a lot. And I had no idea. I legitimately figured I can buy any shepherd and it will do bitey stuff because that was the assumption from somebody who was completely ignorant of the industry.
Yeah.
So like, luckily, like Sushi will never bite anything for real. She'll bite a sleeve and she's really cute playing Frisbee. But I didn't realize that it was that way.
Yeah.
And like you need actually special dog to be able to do the real work. But it's the same as fighting too. I luckily have a actual dog that'll bite things now, even me, depending on the day. But I didn't realize that it's that crazy. So I understand why you would turn it down because like you get a Fluffy walking in here. And
I didn't turn it down. I just didn't respond.
I'm only gonna
go to man.
We're gonna call this a turn down.
Just don't respond. Yeah.
I ghosted him.
He ghosted me. It hurt deep.
You know what? At the time, I was so overwhelmed, like constant texts, calls, emails for pet training and for all sorts of training. And there's a reason why I don't do the phones anymore. Because like we all agreed as a company that was a bad move moving forward for Haz to be on the phones. He shouldn't be on the phones anymore. So now Steven and the ladies at the front answer the phones. And I think it's a much better customer service experience.
I don't leave people for 6 weeks.
Well, and some people still have my number and they still text me and call me sometimes. And sometimes I'll be going through my texts and I'll be like, oh my God, Kathy texted me like 4 weeks ago. And I just totally like, because what I'll do is I'll be training. I'll be like, oh, someone messaged me. I'll look, put it away. I'll get them later, keep training or do whatever other work I'm doing and then just totally forget. So, and I will not respond. And then, 4 weeks later, I'll come, oh no. And then sometimes I'll be like, well, it's just too irrecoverable now. Like I'm not, there is a fly in here. I'm going to kill this.
No, we've seen your boxing.
What are you talking about? I got fast hands, a little bit fat. Yeah,
Impressive. That was
it's all the it's all the coaching.
Oh, good coaching.
Yeah.
Good coaching.
The cameras are way too good for there to be flies in here. That would be terrible. Anyways, yeah, I don't answer the phone anymore.
It's honestly probably for the best.
Tammy's interrupting our inaugural podcast. What do you want, Tammy?
Walks right in front of the camera.
Right in front of the camera.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
What's the deal?
they're dealing with text messages right away, Has.
That's like that.
I think
That's how committed we are.
I think
that's service.
I think this is spam. Do you have an RBC card?
No.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay.
It's just
We're
spam.
too committed to customer service.
No, it's
responding to spam.
I was like, there's no way you have an RBC card.
I do not.
Why do you have 20 text messages with an RVC person?
Thanks, Tammy.
All right. So, where were we? We were talking about.
We're customer service.
Excellent.
Phone right away.
See how good?
So anyway,
Phone is going.
let's continue with the story. So you went to Grassroots for how long?
I've been at grassroots. I'm there a lot.
No, but like in the beginning, you were there before you came here. How long?
It would have been probably 8 months.
So here's the thing. I saw, Mike started posting videos, and I was always saying, like, I'm going to get involved in, like, you know, boxing, MMA, training, whatever, for my health and also just as a skill. I think every man should have that skill. But I was watching Mike posting these videos, and he's posting with a unique looking guy. Let's face it, Lucas does not look like your average MMA trainer.
Good looking.
Yeah, he's like way too good looking to be.
That's definitely it. Yeah.
Punched in the face.
No,
You mean the chubby hair clip guy?
yeah. So I'm like, big tattooed hair clip dude. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. But then I would actually watch. I know, believe it or not, I actually watch some of Mike's stuff. I would watch his like clips, and I'd be like, and I had done some Muay Thai stuff and other stuff. And I was like, and most of it, like, I kind of just got the impression it was like a workout. And if you were kind of like athletically inclined, you'd figure it all out, which doesn't work for me because I'm not athletically inclined and I'm not just looking for a workout. I can work out on my own if I need to. I was actually looking to pick up a skill. And I could see that in what you were doing with Mike, there was like a system you were following. And I'm like, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a system that makes sense, that is progressive, that I can train through and actually pick up the skill of striking with my hands, maybe with my legs at some point, some basic grapple, so on and so forth. So I was watching it and I was like, okay, this makes sense. I like what this dude's doing because I haven't run into anyone that's really using a system that I like yet. And then I hit you up.
Yeah, I don't think most guys, well, listen, lucky for you, best day of your life, just so you know. I don't think most guys use a system in like the fight world. I don't think there's a lot of guys that have a baseline system from what I've seen at most gyms. And, you know, I'm sure somebody could prove me wrong on this, but a lot of gyms I find like, okay, we're doing this today, this tomorrow, and this, where it doesn't flow.
Yep.
Like, I don't think everyone is cut from the same cloth, and I think that there needs to be alterations for every person. But if we have a building block base, I can build off of that. And so everyone's core is very similar, and then we can go from that stepping stone, essentially. Like, learning footwork is footwork, in my opinion. Learning a jab is a jab, and all the base punches along the way is the same thing. There's no variation in that. Now, how we get to those tools might be the biggest variation in somebody's fight game. But until they know those basic tools, what do we have?
It's the same with dog training. Like most dog trainers, like there's a lot of dog trainers out there that are talented. And it's kind of like, just go and do this because I do this. Yeah. And instead of, no, there is a progressive step-by-step system that we follow to give the dog the tools to understand what it is that we want him or her to do. And we're going to build on that system all the way to X goal, whatever X goal is.
That's why I got addicted to the dog training aspect. I originally wanted a bitey dog because I thought it was entertaining. But then you're watching the process of like how you build a dog, and even how you build a dog that's like, you know, a nervy, not really a bitey dog, and get them to a certain point where it's like, this dog had nothing, but because you followed a system,
yeah,
like it does something. And I mean, I give my shepherd a hard time because she's not a monster, which is what I wanted, but she'll bite a suit, and she's a showline Kijiji dog, which is a lot for a dog that's not a lot of dog, if that makes sense. So it's impressive to see something go from that, and which is why I like fighting. I can take a guy like you and make you beat up the average fifth grader. And that to me is impressive.
Fifth graders.
Sixth graders are going to get, you're getting starched.
They'll get you.
Yeah, 100%. But that was why I liked it. And that's why I got addicted to training dogs in general and grassroots, because it was like, oh, I understand what's happening. And they're very, very talented up there. So
good. So like, is this like a podcast where we're just going to...
Yeah, I'm just going to I forget that this is a Shield K9 podcast.
We're just picking up grass and hey, forget those guys.
Forget those guys.
Yeah.
Shield K9.
No, Mike's a good guy. Yeah, so then you did that. Then I hit you up, and then you came down.
Yeah, and then we got to start training for a bit, and then I was like, oh, has a system too, and he's not as douchey. I used it as he appears on his videos. This is interesting. And, you know, the kids are entertaining as well, so.
Oh, yeah. Lucas gets to see my kids.
And they're entertaining. Yeah. They will both be tougher than you, for sure.
I hope so. Hey, my job as a father is to make sure that the children surpass me. That's if I accomplish that financially, psychologically, physically, if I accomplish that, that's my job.
You've done your job.
That's literally my job, is to improve upon myself.
Well, they've already started training.
Yeah, they have already started. They're already beating me there.
Yo, Mikey has got a right hand on him. I'm just gonna say.
Can you? He's hit me a few times.
He's got
5 years old, just for the record.
He's got a right hand. He throws it with hatred.
He's hit me a few times, and I'm like, God damn.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. Like, I'm not saying this for the. No. He's hit me a few times. I'm like, you got a little power there, buddy.
Yeah, he does.
Sweetie, just a sweetie pie, but like,
When he throws that right hand.
Mikey's like raising small children's like raising puppies for me. It's like exactly the same, because you can see like their predispositions. Like Danny, the 2-year-old, he's got more fire in him. Mike's bigger physically, but has like that kind of like sweet temperament.
Yeah, it's true.
And for him to be able to like actually fight somebody, it's not so easy for him naturally.
Zero.
But you've seen some of the stuff I've done.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it.
We have to be careful what we say on here, because I think some of it may be illegal. I'm not 100%. But stuff like that I would do with like a dog that I knew could fight but didn't really want to fight. You know, It's like, hey, bro, I'm not going away. Make me.
Yeah.
You know,
It works though.
it works. And you see his confidence. And I watch him in the playground. You know, I'm always worried like he's going to be like one of those kids that gets like pushed around by the other kids.
All the worst.
And it's so like, as a parent, I don't know how you could allow that, you know, like not to get involved yourself, because you can't get involved unless it's like some ridiculously like older kid pushing your like little kid around. We let him fight his own battles, but in the playground, listen, kids are savages. They're like dogs. They're like dogs. They have no mercy on each other.
care.
They are ruthless.
No.
They are solipsistic. They are completely like instinctual. Whatever they want, they just do. Whatever they think, they just say. They're 100% human versions of dogs. So it's like, but you can't get involved, because a lot of parents try to like go and be the hero and get involved. It's like, that's not going to help them.
Yeah.
You gotta learn. You just got to give them the tools.
You got to teach them the skills to be able to deal with the conflict.
That's right.
You know, how you deal with conflict is in many different ways, depending on, you know, what your outcome. It could be removing yourself from conflict,
100%.
or it could be finishing that conflict or trying to
Yeah.
in other ways.
Well, listen, no, why are we parsing terms? Violence underpins our entire, as it's been said in other places, violence underpins our entire society. It does. Why are we pretending? We dress it up and we say nice words, but at the end of the day, if you really have a problem with somebody, you're either going to do something about it yourself, or you're going to call the police, who are going to ultimately use violence to enforce the rule of law. The government can only pass laws because they're backed by potential violence. You know, countries can only maintain their sovereignty if they're capable of violence, or if they're friends with someone who's capable of violence, aka the United States to the south. You know, everything we have, we've dressed it up, and this is, I think, a lot of people struggle with dog training, because they're living in this dressed up world where so much things are there artificially, and we get to say things like, you know, oh, I support nonviolent approaches and blah blah. And don't get me wrong, I support nonviolent approaches too, but I understand that the entire system in which we live and operate, right? The only difference between us and the cavemen is we've got a ton of technology and a ton of systems in place that are between the talking and the violence. That's fundamentally it. But underneath it all is still that. And if, for me as a father, my job is to make sure my sons are capable of that in order to fundamentally protect them.
I also would say that if everyone participated in a fighting martial art, everyone,
Yes.
we would actually be healthier and have less violence overall.
100%.
I think because people don't understand what violence truly is and what other people are capable of, they do things that push other people to violence. I think the nicest people I know are fighters.
Yeah.
Or people who train. And it's not because like, oh, they're my friends and I hang out with them all day, because they don't need to go out and be violent.
Yeah.
There's no need. They understand what they are capable of and what other people are capable of. So there's no need for this. Like, I am, I think, a nice guy most of the time, and no one would really typically know. Like, I like violence more than most people I know in the world. It's my favorite thing. But because I know I'm capable of it, most things roll off my back.
Yes.
And I think if people understood that there was a heavy consequence, isn't there a Patrice O'Neill
There's a hot Patrice O'Neill, man. We're gonna get like
Canceled already?
yeah, like this dog training podcast is not going very well.
No, but he has. I'm pretty sure there's one of the quote things he has where he's talking about like if you want to go start a fight, tells his friend or whoever at the time,
Yes.
you go deal with it.
There's a lot of people that run their mouth and because they run their mouth because they don't perceive that there's a real possibility of violence occurring. And they've just been so insulated by maybe an upbringing, society. But you know what all that is? That's just pretension. That's a sense of entitlement. And there's a lot of people that go through the world with a sense of entitlement. And I think one thing that's really helped me from a dog training perspective is I don't have a sense of entitlement. I have been punched in the face. I have had a dog, really bite me with serious intent and open me up. I've watched dogs with each other and they don't have any pretension when they operate with each other. Like they will not hesitate to do what needs to be done to get the message across, whether it's a good message or a bad message. And our dog training system, people are like, oh, I don't train with fear and violence. It's like, well, neither do I. But I train with the dogs in a way that is direct and clear for them. This is good. When you do this, great things happen. This is bad. When you do this, terrible things happen. And it's like, oh, it's magic. How did you get the dog to do that? I communicated with him in a clear way. I made good, bad, bad. Now the dog speaks my language. We're talking to each other, and it's like that realism carries. I don't think you can be unrealistic and be a dog trainer of any kind of quality, like of any real quality. Be a good all-around dog trainer and be an unrealistic person that's like a pacifist and a vegan and all this type of stuff. Like you can't do that.
No, because from the dog training perspective, not that I'm a dog trainer in the least.
Better dog trainer than a lot of dog trainers.
But what I do understand is like you have to show the dog that there is consequence to action. And I take that just from fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you drop your hand and I don't have a stage of punishments for you, what are you going to learn? You're going to learn that dropping your hand's okay. And you're going to learn it in the worst possible way, which isn't with me who's going to keep you safe.
Yes.
Because that's my job as a coach. It's going to be when it really matters and your family's on the line or you're in a fight in a ring and then you get to go unconscious. Lucky you.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas
because you were nice to me.
Because I decided to be nice because I didn't want to tell you. Now, I think that there's an elevation level for how I let someone know that you're screwing up. You drop your hand. I can tell you once.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's fair. Second time, I might tell you again. Third time, I'm going to slap you in the face when your hand is down. Now, how much I put on that will probably depend on my mood and if I ate a good breakfast that day and if my coffee was on point. But there needs to be the consequence. And sure enough, what happens most times when I slap you in the head?
I get my hands up.
So I feel like dog training is very, very similar. I think that there's a scaled approach.
When I started training with Lucas and following his system, I actually was like, oh man, that's why that works so well, right? Like, so when we train dogs, we show them what we want. We show them both, with positive reinforcement and with negative reinforcement, which is basically tactile manipulation where you create minor discomfort. Something as simple as pulling on a flat collar upwards for a sit. It feels slightly uncomfortable. The dog puts his butt down, you stop pulling, and then you give him a piece of food. So that's negative reinforcement to positive reinforcement. And I was like, why does that work so damn well? And then if the dog's like making a mistake in the obedience somewhere and you put a little pressure on him for that mistake, oftentimes you'll see the performance just all around improve. And when I'm boxing with him, right, and he tells me to do something, sometimes I'll be like, okay, I got to do this, and I'll do it. And then sometimes for whatever reason, whether I'm tired, stressed, thinking about other things, I'm not able, even though mentally I kind of almost want to do it, I'm just not able to do it. And then he catches me one right in the side of the head, and magically, it's amazing. It's like my nervous system and my physical and my mental sync up and say, okay, we're doing this now. And all of a sudden, the hands up. You're blocking the shots. You're doing all the things that you're supposed to do.
Well, what makes it even more similar is the fact that like as soon as I add new stimulus into what's happening, or new environment or new things, you'll see those things go back. So let's say every time you throw a right hand, your hand's coming low. We fix it in a, hey, Taz, throw a jab cross, I slap you in the head, it's fixed. As soon as I'm like, okay, throw a jab cross hook,
yeah,
you'll see it fall apart. As soon as it's, hey, I'm going to throw a punch at you. You're going to block and then throw a jab cross hook. It'll start to fall apart again. And it's all just building those levels up and up and up to the point where like you could go in a actual ring and your performance on pads would be the same in the ring. And I'm sure dog training is the same. Like you do it in a closed environment where there is no distractions at first when you're teaching a sit, very little. And then eventually you should be able to go outside and it should be no different from hitting a pads to the real world. Like you're just trying to amalgamate the things into the same thing.
And training to real life. And that's the thing too with dog training. We do that a lot. You get rid of the reactivity in the training room. Then you get rid of the reactivity out on the field.
Yeah.
Then you get rid of the reactivity in public. You know, you get an off-leash heel in the training room, then the field, then the driveway, then in public. And you constantly show the dog the variables and give them always the same consistent answers and hold them to that same standard.
I fully agree. And for fighting, like I think I hold guys back from sparring probably longer than most. And I think it's been a criticism of students of mine that are like, man, I just want to spar. But for me, if you can't answer those questions in a drill, how are you going to answer it sparring? Now, you know, sometimes you got to pare back your expectations. Not everyone's going to be a world beater. They just want to spar because it's fun for them. But for me, I want you to go in there with every tool that you can answer every question. So I guess for dog training, it'd be, you know, dogs need to learn how to turn off pressure. There's an answer to turning off pressure.
100%.
So for fighting, it's the same thing. And sometimes like, I want to make sure you're prepared. Like you haven't really done a full sparring round.
Nope.
And it's been a year. You know, but not, I don't want to say grassroots again, but Mike just did his first 3 full rounds.
Really?
It's been a year and a half of full training with an injury involved, but he just did his first 3 rounds and he did amazing.
Yeah.
Really well because there was no problem he hadn't seen in different contexts.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I want for most guys going into the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we've done some like basic drills with like 2 men, but like nothing like, all right, just go.
Yeah. I don't think it breeds good habits.
No, I could feel it because even in some of those drills we were doing, I was really like, you know, lifting my chin up, swinging wildly. We weren't doing the things that I was supposed to be doing. So just doing those drills and then slowly building up, I think, you know, when I finally do spar, it's going to be a lot better than if I was just left to my own devices.
100%. And fighting properly, like skill-wise, is not natural.
Yeah.
The skill of fighting, the want to fight and the desire to fight, I think is a bit of a natural thing. Sure. Like I think there's people that like, I just like to fist fight.
Yeah.
But I don't think knowing how to fight is a natural thing. People come in and they have this preconceived notion of swinging their arms wild. This is fighting. But then when you go see like these super talented fighters, you're like, oh, that's not what it is at all.
No. And believe it or not, I'm not one of these people that likes to fist fight.
No, you don't like to fight?
I don't know. I mean, I've never really been that guy. You know, there's some guys like they're just always getting in fights nonstop. I've never been that guy to do that.
But some of those guys I find don't necessarily like to fist fight. I think it's just a circumstance of having a big mouth and...
Well, I got one of those.
They get themselves into it.
Yeah. Do you like fighting at all?
No,
not at all. Like from any perspective?
not really. No.
Hey, you know, a lot of people look at Steven and Steven looks like young. And let's face it, he's not like a jack dude.
27.
But exactly, like people think Steven's like 20. You know?
Really? They think he's 20?
They think he's 20.
I think sitting this close to him looks weathered.
But I've seen, you know what? What always lets me respect somebody is when I watch them get bit and then I see how they handle it. Do you panic? Do you cry? Do you, overreact? Do you get all like jumpy afterwards, or you just take it like a man, wrap that shit up and move on and keep training? And I liked it because Steven, when he got bit and it was a big dog that bit him, he just handled it, didn't overreact, stayed in the game, and, got it together and just kept on going like it was, just another day, which it was.
I tried to say it worked, but you made me go to the clinic.
Well, we didn't want any infection.
Yeah.
Dog bites are nasty in that they can, like even a small dog bite, you can get infected. And if you get infected, it can be potentially catastrophic. You could lose a limb.
Yeah.
That's
the real danger with it. Yeah.
And we've had our fair few, people think the protection training's dangerous. It's always the pet dog.
Oh,
always the pet dog.
They're just more unpredictable.
Extremely unpredictable.
100%.
You know,
I would see
you deal with enough behavior cases, you're going to get bit. You deal with like doing protection training and sport work, you might get bit, but I think it's much higher likelihood with the pet dogs if you're dealing with real cases.
If I got bit, I'm crying for sure. You guys are going to see.
You won't. You know what?
It's not too bad.
If someone, it's not because you're not ready.
No, it's like your adrenaline just
Get you an adrenaline dump. You don't feel it. Like I had a dog, like an alfalfa blue blood. Those things. You know they're right. This dog, and he knew how to bite because he'd been taught somewhere else. And that's the one good thing they did with him because they didn't do anything else. Dude hammers me in the forearm and starts punching in. And I'm good. Like he was like really like hammering in. It took us a little bit to get him off. Like he was wearing a prong collar and the owners finally managed to get him off. And I didn't feel a thing the whole time other than pressure. Like I felt the pressure. And initially when he came off, like my jacket was all torn. And I remember just being upset because it was a new jacket. That my jacket was, I even said like, you tore my jacket. You know, like, God damn it. And I'm like, it can't be that bad because I don't feel anything. Go to the freaking sink, move my sleeve. I'm like, oh God,
There's actual blood.
the blood. I can see it all. Like he sliced through me. Like we're actually very soft.
You honestly don't feel it really. Like when I got bit, it was the same thing. Like I was like, it's probably like I'm bruised up a little, and I pulled my sleeve up and was like, oh no, there's holes. There's holes.
It's one thing when you see your like fat.
Yeah.
You know, like I've seen blood. When you see your body fat on the like inside, you know, like you're like, oh, I didn't know I was made like that. You know?
I'm crying for sure still, guys.
The pain comes later.
The pain
it doesn't come right away.
You know the pain came for me when I poured alcohol, which by the way you should not do. I poured alcohol in it because I had a group class and I had to keep teaching it.
Why should you do alcohol?
Apparently kills the good and the bad bacteria. So betadine and let it go. Let it leak.
Yeah, you keep it open. You never stitch it up with a dog bite.
Because if you put 4 in there.
If there's bacteria in there from the dog and you stitch it up and then the infection goes, you won't notice it. And then
you're done.
Then you're done. So you keep it open. So you just wrap it, and then let it breathe for a while and let it drain and let it come out. And
Crazy.
Yeah.
No. We know all these things because it's happened to us multiple.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen as often as you would think dealing with the dogs that we deal with because every time you get bit, that's like nature's way of saying you need to be a little more careful. You know? So I haven't been bit badly since that incident. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen again, but it means that I am very aware of how not to get bit.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't want to get bit.
Yeah, it sucks. Like you realize how fragile we are. Like you'll see dogs get into it and they'll just scrap. You know, they'll get into a fight with each other and you'll be like, you'll examine them afterwards. You'll be like, oh, there's a little blood here. There's a little blood there. But it's nothing like it's nothing like terrible for like how hard they were going at it. And then you'll like, you realize if that same thing happened to you, you'd be getting reconstructive surgery. They're just so much more tough than we are.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
You guys are out of your minds.
What are you talking about?
I just want to deal with nice dogs.
Have you seen your dog?
Wouldn't you like to deal with nice dogs?
My dog, he's got like this Malinois that's
He's a sweetheart.
I don't even know. It's not like a FCI Malinois, but it's a BRN registered Malinois.
Fancy.
And, he's a bit of a psychopath. He's got the Malinois eyes.
He's cute.
Where he looks right through you.
He's got the eyes for
just
sure.
the blank eyes, like the stare, like a shark. Like if you were to ever look at a shark, it's those eyes, just like, yeah, you're there. I see you. What happened to our logo? It's gone. Somebody did something.
The remote's right.
Whatever. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Anyways,
I always just got curious. Random thought. What are... Oh,
there you go. Hathy. Anyways, Lucas is probably at some point going to get bit by his dog.
just saying. We've had the conversation.
Yeah.
We've had a few conversations. He's a good boy.
That's what people don't get. If you want a badass dog, like we're going to talk about dogs. Don't worry, ladies. We're not talking about the golden doodles. We're not talking about Steven, by the way, owns a golden retriever. He's very sweet. They don't need to have any kind of conversations, other than like, I love you. You love me, please be a good boy. Done.
That's about all we do.
That's right. but like, if you want like a dog for, any kind of sport or bite work or protection, and you want that dog, you better be that guy. If you're not that guy or that girl, he will take advantage of you because he can't help it. It's in his nature, we tend to view people, I see so many people tend to view dogs as like these like creatures that just have goodwill in their heart. And guess what? They're a lot like human beings. A lot of them do have goodwill in their heart, and they're very sweet, you know, easygoing, fun to be around, nice to get along with. But just like people, there's that guy, and there is that dog, that guy that likes to fight, that guy that likes to push other people around and gets off on it, you know.
Who would be then side top? Well, not really. It goes on with this. Who would be that? Who's been the dog for you that was like, you're a real one, like the realest one you've dealt with, where you're like, oh, like you had to mind your P's and Q's the entire time?
I was gonna say probably.
I don't know if the camera can see this guy. Danger. I have a picture of him, always to remind me about this dog. This dog taught me so much about dealing with dominant dogs, because I remember I bought him from Mike Suttle at Logan House with another dog.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got 2 dogs. There was one that was really big. His name was Edge. We bought him. And he's like, I got this other one. He's a little dominant, you know, so he's also for sale, and the price was right. So I'm like, all right, well, a little dominant doesn't sound too bad. I set him up. To this day, not the most dominant, but he was up there with some of the like this dog. There is no better word. You probably need to bleep this out, but cunt to describe this dog.
Really?
Everything was a dick measuring contest with him. Everything. Put me in my kennel? No, I don't want to go in my kennel today. And if you try to make me go in my kennel, I'm going to eat you. You know, anything like, hey, bro, can you sit? Or don't pee on that car tire. You know, everything was a dick measuring contest with this dog. And we had to figure out, you know, we had tools at the time. We obviously were training dogs, but this was not like anything we'd ever really dealt with. That level of social aggression in a dog. And I call it social aggression because that's what I basically term as dominance. Is I call it social aggression because it's socially motivated aggression. The aggression isn't there because he's in prey. The aggression isn't there because he feels threatened. The aggression is simply there because he perceives that you're challenging his dominion over something, whether it's a resource, whether it's space, you know, space is a resource, but affection, food, whatever it is that he has decided is his autonomy. I want to pee on that car tire. And if you try to make me stop, I'm going to eat you.
Amazing.
You know, that's true social aggression. And he was probably one of the most, not the most, but probably one of the most socially aggressive dogs that we ever dealt with. And it literally almost informed everything he ever did. And
how long did you have him for?
We had him, man, better part of a year, I'd say. Yeah. Better part. We put a lot on him. You know, I had a standard in my head of where, so like all the dogs that we trained, the protection dogs, for instance, like I want the dog to do the following things. I need him to be able to heel around a decoy, which is extremely difficult for these dogs. I need him to be able to out. I need him to be able to return to the handler. I need him to be able to do all these things that involve, guess what? Pressure. Because he wants to do X.
Yeah.
But instead of just being able to do X, hey, bro, like you need to do Y right now, and then maybe you'll get to do X later, maybe you won't. That's teaching a dog self-control. And with many dogs, it's not, especially the working dogs, we breed them intentionally to have more of a, they have more spirit. They have more, they're not your average golden doodle. Like they are type A personality dogs. Otherwise they wouldn't be able to do their job.
Yeah.
Right. Whether it's police work, military work, sport work, anything that involves contact and pressure, you need a certain type of dog to be able to go through that and do its job. And, you know, Danger was one of those dogs. And we called him Danger. And just to remind everybody in the kennel who was dealing with him, like, you know, there was only a couple people. My brother was the handler. Because I was the decoy, and you're definitely not going to be the decoy and the handler if Danger all at the same time. And, you know, I had a couple other guys. So like Carson, my buddy, was also occasionally handling him. And I remember once we pulled him out to do some bite work. So we did some bite work with him. I slipped the sleeve. He dropped the sleeve, and I said, all right, Carson, take him away from the sleeve. Carson goes to take him away from the sleeve. It's dead on the ground, okay? The sleeve has slipped off my arm. Danger, he's like out. Danger drops the sleeve, turns around, and attacks Carson. And just attacked him. And I had to like go, and we were back in the other training room with the posts, and I'm yelling because I'm the decoy. So I'm yelling, hey, no. And I grabbed the sleeve, and I put it on me, and I ran at them. And Danger had already jumped on him and bit him a couple times. Carson had the leash, and he ran around the post a few times. Like, we have like these pillars supporting the ceiling. So Danger, and he's like kind of playing peekaboo on the post, trying to like avoid this dog. And I run up to him. Yeah. Finally, the dog nails the sleeve. We get him on the sleeve. We get a leash on him, get him out of there. And Carson's like, all like, obviously got messed up. Anyways, it was fast. It was so fast. So we didn't even really know like what the damage was. And Carson wasn't screaming or anything because, again, it's so quick, right?
Adrenaline too.
20 stitches, like boom, he had bite here, he got bit like 3-4 times in the tricep, and like serious bites, like not like little
nips, like committed, like I'm gonna hurt you.
Committed. He said, I can't have that decoy, I can't have that sleeve, I'm gonna have you.
That's wild.
Because you tried to make me leave. And Carson wasn't even doing anything. He wasn't like
putting a ton on him.
No, he was just like, let's go. And he was like, nope, I'm eating you. So then we had this place. So now we're in this place and we're like, all right, so we got Danger. What's the tools? What we're doing right now is not working to get this dog to bark next to the handler and go bite and then let go and come away and heel around. What should we do? And me and my brother sat down and we're like spitballing, like, what should we do? And I said, okay, I have this plan, and it involves a slip lead. We were using pinch collar and an e-collar and, rewarding him with the ball and stuff like that. I said, we're going to ditch all that. We're going to use a slip lead, and we're going to make him do everything we need him to do. And we went through it with him. He tried to eat us like a lot of times, but real quick, we made our point. He learned, okay, I can't do that anymore. Eating these guys eating the handler is not possible. Not possible. And we literally would look for every little button he had that would make him try to eat the handler. We'd go after it. Instead of avoiding it, we'd go after it. Oh, you want to eat him here? You want to eat the handler about going in the kennel? Let's set him up for it. So we'd set him up for it. Oh, you don't like it when the handler yells at you? Well, guess what? The handler's yelling at you, right? Oh, you don't want to let go when you're told to let go? Well, guess what? You're letting go. And we're setting him up every single time. And every time he would say, okay, I'm not getting my way. I'm going to react by being aggressive towards the handler. We'd do what we had to do. And we showed him really quickly and effectively while keeping the handler safe as we could keep him, that you're not doing this anymore. And it was actually like the dog was all of a sudden able to do a ton more. He was still, in his heart of hearts, a you-know-what, but he was under control as he had respect for the handler. That type of dog, with most people that aren't willing to go to that place with that type of dog, is going to end up getting the blue juice. Now, he did ultimately end up getting the blue juice, and I'll explain why in a second, because I know people are going to ask, what happened to Danger? Here's what happened to Danger. Danger was being Danger. He was walking around, actually training with my brother. I had a Malinois named Bastion, and Bastion was my old IGP dog, and Bastion was in a crate. So Danger walks by the crate, sees Bastion, looks at him, goes, bleh. Bastion wasn't the dog to deal with that kind of stuff. And I don't know whether the door wasn't on the crate properly or what. My brother was by himself in the training room with Danger, but Bastion was in the crate. Bastion, long story short, Bastion breaks out of the crate. They get in a dog fight.
Oh.
And it was one hell of a dog fight because those were two special dogs, okay? Like, they were both psychopaths. They get in a dog fight. Anyways, long story short, we break it up. Danger has a bunch of wounds on his arm, on his two front legs. And we take him into the vet, as you should. Get the stitches, get the antibiotics, whatever. And again, he's not an easy dog to take to the vet. He's not an easy dog to give things to or to check his wounds, because he will eat you up if you create any kind of physical discomfort for him. So everything, you have to be very careful in how you do everything. Long story short, we took him back to the vet 3 times because he just wasn't getting better, right? And just couldn't figure it out. We were giving him all the medications. Anyways, he started getting lethargic. His front arms swelled up. Took him back to the vet one final time. We were giving him all this medication, doing all this stuff. Nothing was working. That says he has gangrene. We're going to have to cut the arm off. I said, at that point,
yeah,
there's nothing more to be done here.
No.
And I felt, even though this dog was the dog from hell, I felt terrible. It felt terrible. I pet him as we were putting him to sleep. He's there, and I'm like, I felt terrible because obviously he's suffering and so on and so forth. Petting him as he's putting him to sleep, and I was like, hey, buddy, sorry, petting him. And he's wearing his muzzle, and he's getting the injection, and the last thing he did on this planet was he looked me in the eyes on his side on the table. We weren't holding him down because at that point he was pretty much done just from a health perspective. And he just looked me right in the eyes and he went, And then he went to sleep.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, thank you, Danger.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, wild. It was a...
That sounds like a real one.
Yeah, it was a real one.
Now I know why he's up in the office.
Yeah, we always want to remember him. He taught us a lot. We're, obviously very sorry that the outcome was what it was.
Of course, you never wanted to go that way, but...
Hell no. I wouldn't mind if he was... Well, I wouldn't mind, but... Probably would have eaten some other people if we had kept him. But I mean, to be honest, I don't know who we would have ever sold that dog.
Yeah,
that dog is too much for most people. Wouldn't be willing to do what you would need to do to just coexist with the dog. And that type of dog is just so bone deep in him. It's just so extreme in him that you would never not need to be on your P's and Q's with a dog like that.
That would be hard to live with.
Extremely hard.
I don't know many people that would want that.
I'm sure there are a few psychopaths in this world that would enjoy that kind of existence. I'm not personally one of them.
But no, 0% of me wants that day to day.
Yeah, but I tell you what, we've had a few of these types of dogs, extreme dogs. And I know they're extreme because of the bulk of dogs that we deal with here. We deal with more dogs than most people.
Would Mace have been in that category? No,
not even close.
Yeah.
That's why I always say Mace is a nice Dutchie. Because I've seen not nice Dutchies.
He was actually very good with the handler for the most
Very
part.
good with the handler. As good as a Dutchie can be with a handler and still be
a Dutchie.
A dog. Believe me, there's a lot of really nervous, low drive, kind of low quality Dutchies.
Yeah.
But I don't judge Dutchies by that.
No.
But from a working perspective, Mace was he had social aggression, but he definitely didn't have it towards the handler near as much as Danger did. Danger just had social aggression in general towards every living being that shared the planet with him.
Interesting.
So,
The only reason I asked because I was around for Mace being here. Mace was fine with me.
He wouldn't just go after people.
No.
And Danger wasn't the type of dog that if he walked by you, he'd go after you. But if he thought he could get away with it, if he was around you and you were like, "Hey, buddy," he'd be like, just because he could, and he would get off on it. He would enjoy that, and that's what people don't understand. Dogs like people. There are some dogs out there, just as there are some people out there that are not your average dog and that are not your average person. And, for all you can label it whatever you want. Oh, he's a psychopath. He's bipolar. He's this. I've seen the exact same behavior in dogs.
Crazy.
And that's what people don't get. But I like dogs like this because these types of dogs they're not here maybe to make your life easy, but they're here to teach you valuable things that you can then use when you're actually helping somebody that has a dog that's half of that.
Yeah, you don't want a kennel full of those, I'm assuming, but one every, 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
Just to remind
They're the biggest learning experience you're ever going to get.
It's got to be the scariest, but with that fear comes actual real learning that most people can't say they've ever.
They're like, who do you learn from? Who did you go to? There's no one I went to that taught me everything I know. I don't have a mentor. Guys like Danger taught me things.
I was going to say, would you guys say time, for both of you, holding the leash?
Time on the
what
leash
teaches you more than anything?
Oh, for sure.
Time on the leash is the biggest thing.
Every dog's a little different too, right? So every dog you do, hard, not so hard, sensitive, tough, they all teach you something.
That's right. And you know what? I don't want people to think, everything we know, we learn from Danger. Believe me, we've got dogs in here that are just so terrified and sensitive. You have to be so careful with everything you do to build the dog and not break the dog.
Yeah.
Those dogs also taught us a lot.
They'd have to.
They also taught us a lot. They didn't put anybody in the hospital, but the challenge with those dogs is to get them to the point where they can go through life without just completely falling apart.
Especially when they don't have any drive.
No drive. They don't want to eat.
They don't like affection. They don't like anything.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I feel like that could be harder in some aspects.
It is harder.
It's way harder.
It's way that motivates them. At least if you have a dog that's motivated by biting somebody or...
I'd way rather train a tough dog, like an asshole who's turning on me.
I'd rather train a dog that try to eat me than a sensitive dog. But I mean, we train so many sensitive dogs. Now, most of the dogs that we train, I'd say they're sensitive, but they're not the feral dog sensitive.
Yeah.
But we've done some that are so sensitive and so fearful, and you have to be so careful with everything that you do, because the goal, I know everybody thinks we're these hard ass tough guys training dogs, but it's that's not what we do. A lot of the dogs we do are sensitive, fearful family pets, and we need to make these dogs as good as we can make them.
It does make sense. Huh. Interesting. It's crazy.
And I'm sure you deal with people like that.
I was literally just thinking, that's actually what I was deep in thought here, where you get people that even walking into the gym is nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I get it.
Like I've had people walk into the gym scared to come into the gym. You know, eventually, like, the point is to make them just walk in any environment comfortably.
Yeah.
There could be trauma in the past, or just MMA gyms are.
It's intimidating. Bunch of jacked up dudes that can fight all out, and
depending on when you show up, right? Like when it's rec classes, it's not as bad because like you come in and the kids' class is going on and it's a little fun.
Yeah.
But like you've been there when the pros are training.
Oh yeah, man.
You'll walk in and there's 10 to 15 guys jacked, in great shape, getting after it. And that's an intimidating thing to walk into.
Yeah.
You know, I still get intimidated going to different gyms that aren't my own.
Yeah.
I'll walk in and I have a bit of a nerve like, oh God, it's going to happen here. But I think the nerve is what keeps it fun.
Yeah, I think everybody has some nerve. I mean, some people I'm sure don't, just like some dogs don't, but most people do. And it's really just like, can you deal with it productively?
Well, that's, I think, what half of teaching fighting is like, how do you deal with your nerves for that situation? I feel like there's a lot of translation to other things in life, but fighting in general.
Well, whether we're dealing with a protection dog or a pet dog, when we're dealing with a nervy dog, you know, people are like, how do you train the fearful dogs? And they think it's like really different. It's not really different. You're doing the same things, but you're just grading everything way down to that dog's level and then building them up instead of like kind of breaking them down a little bit. You're building them up and showing them, no, you can overcome this. You can overcome this. You can overcome this. And you're kind of scaling the challenges that you put in front of the dog to the ability of that specific dog, and then just, you know, going up, 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 up in a kind of progressive overload type manner.
Yeah, it's legitimately the same as fighting.
Yeah, there you go.
There's no different.
Building fighters, building dogs.
Same thing.
I don't know. Does anybody have any closing thoughts? Where can they find you, Lucas?
Aegis MMA on Instagram, or just in Oakville. Just Google it.
Just walk around Oakville. You'll run.
Walk around Oakville. Everyone will know. No, Aegis MMA. Google it, or on Instagram, or my own social media is Lucas Chaston at Lucas Chaston, I guess. Just my name. Simple.
And they have a ton of pro fighters in the gym there. And I know a lot of you guys. There's always going to be some tough guys on here. That Lucas guy, I could take him on.
You know what I actually say to those people?
Yeah.
2304 Lakeshore Road West, Oakville. Come.
Thought video.
Oh yeah, please bring camera crew, bring whatever you want. Show up.
Video.
Like, I'm there all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I own the place with my amazing business partner, Lyndon. You show up, we can spar, grapple.
Yeah, and you know, that's what I like about Lucas. He can show you his skills if you're questioning.
Yeah, come and pull up, guys.
Yeah.
I'm always okay with this. And if I lose, Hammy's in the cage.
There you go. Let the dog out after.
Yeah. Hammy's there hanging out with me.
So that's Lucas. And then, guys, you can find us at shieldk9.ca. We've got Instagram. We got YouTube, which you're probably watching right now. We got a Facebook page. Check out our online course at shieldk9online.com. And thank you for watching. See you on the next one.